Talofa and welcome back to Pacific Mornings with Aggie here on 5:31 PI. We're sitting at 10 minutes past 7 o'clock, and most of you may know that conversion therapy in Aotearoa is now illegal after Parliament, with the support of nearly all MPs, passed the bill to ban conversion practices. Celebrating this win is our next guest, who has spent the last 3 years fighting to ban conversion therapy after famously delivering a speech in 2019 during a youth parliament demanding New Zealanders and its leaders to tighten the country's loose laws around conversion therapy. Their activism has even gained the attention of the iconic beauty and fashion magazine Vogue. So in saying that, we're joined now with Fijian anti-conversion therapy activist Shaneel Lal. With that, I say Nisan Pulivinaka, and welcome to the show this morning.
Morena, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Shaneel, as we said, it's been a 3-year journey, right, for yourself to fight for this ban on conversion therapy here in Aotearoa. And it's great. On the 19th of February, we know it became law. So now that it's an illegal practice, I mean, how does it feel that, I suppose, is it an end of a 3-year battle, or is it still continuing?
I would say that when we banned conversion therapy, it was a sense of relief, because so much responsibility had been lift off my shoulders. But then there was an overwhelming sense of depression, really, because I felt that my entire adult life has revolved around trying to ban conversion therapy. And now that it is done, I don't know if it's that I've lost a sense of direction, or that following this work, so many people have contacted me to do so many other pieces of work that I've just been overwhelmed. But it was a huge victory, and I described it as a victory for humanity, not just the queer community, because I believe that queer rights are human rights, and queer people do not need to be accepted or tolerated. We need to be free. And putting an end to practices that try to erase us is a beginning to liberating queer people. You know, when I was young and living in Fiji, my community was given a choice between their child and their church. And I wish that my community had seen the broken heart of a child and chosen me, but they chose their church. And then in 2017, when I moved to Aotearoa, in Middlemore Hospital, a church leader offered to pray my gay away. And that's when I realized that New Zealand still allowed this practice to continue. And I said, you know what, I can, I must, and I will ban conversion therapy. But I'm fully aware that a criminal ban on a practice is not the end, because a criminal ban relies on catching people and putting them in prison. And we know that the prisons don't always stop crime. So it's about educating people and changing the mindset of an entire generation of people that being queer is okay. So the work does continue after this ban.
Absolutely. And, you know, our program is all about, you know, bringing our Pacific people together. And it was nice to see that most, I suppose, or no, actually not most, but all Pacific MPs, right, voted to ban it. What does that mean to you, though?
I will just tell you a quote from Carmel Sepuloni, who said, talking about queer people, is that they are perfect as they are. They do not need to feel inferior or change in any way. They can feel confident and know that they are accepted. In my 44 years on this earth, I have seen far too many instances where our Pacific LGBTQIA+ community have been made to feel less, and it has provided them with an unnecessary challenge in life. And I don't think that I want to see that happen moving forward. And having spoken to multiple Pacific MPs to write a piece for Coconut, there has been a resounding support by our Pacific leaders, and it is quite groundbreaking, in my opinion, that all Pacific MPs have voted in favor, because Minister Aotearoa, Minister for Pacific Peoples, did vote against same-sex marriage in 2013. But he has changed his position now and says that it is about protecting our community and allowing our community to prosper. And that includes queer Pacific people, because we just need to accept and recognize that before colonization, mahu, you know, these people were all integral to our communities. Colonization stripped that away from us.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And then on the flip side, though, Shaneel, obviously you've had some MPs who were against it, right? And that includes good old Simon Bridges, right? Because he says that this bill sort of prevents maybe some parents having to maybe have that mature, honest conversation with their children. I mean, you know, what's your response to this? Because he's saying it's quite simplistic and a bit of an overreach.
Simon Bridges has a law degree from Oxford University. I would tell him to use it. It's is intentionally misinterpreting the bill and scaring parents because there are multiple lawyers in our parliament and they've all read the bill and none of them have the same concerns. Simon Bridges, obviously, as I said, he's a lawyer, but he's someone who has a record of anti-queer views. When Simon Bridges was about 18 years old, he said that I'm not really into homosexuality. And for me, that was an odd thing for a heterosexual person to say. If you're a heterosexual man and you're into homosexuality, that would make you gay. He has been saying all this really homophobic things from the get-go. And then he voted against same-sex marriage. And then he voted against banning conversion therapy 3 times, despite the Minister of Justice addressing his concerns. So he's just a homophobic person, in my opinion. And that's how he votes. And if you read the bill, Section 5 of the bill clearly states that expression of an opinion that is religious or not religious is allowed.
And obviously with conversion therapy, now that it's illegal, specifically for our Pacific people, because I know I've read a couple of your articles that when you've been interviewed talking about freedom, right? That you are not free until all your Pacific queer people are free.
Yeah.
Can you maybe elaborate just a little bit on that?
You know, this year will, of course, mark 36 years of the decriminalization of homosexuality in New Zealand. New Zealand queers have a trickle-down equality mindset. It's like trickle-down economics, that if the rich keep getting richer, somehow the poor are going to, that money is going to trickle down to the poor people. And I think New Zealanders believe that if queer people in New Zealand become freer and freer and freer, that equality is somehow going to trickle down to our Pacific Islands. But it's been 36 years since New Zealand decriminalized homosexuality, and that equality still has not trickled down to Tonga, Samoa, Cook Islands. And Tonga and Samoa were colonized by New Zealand. And that is why New Zealand needs to take responsibility for this, because New Zealand did colonize and criminalize homosexuality in the Pacific. I cannot be free until all my people are free, because I cannot sit here and celebrate freedom for as long as my people are still trapped by the shackles of colonization and criminalization. We really, as a Pacific community, need to look at ourselves and think that we have criminalized our families. This is quite literally about many people that we know and love, and it's not okay that we pretend that we love our family. We pretend that we love our whawhine aunties and whakaleiti aunties, but we've criminalized them. And if you love us, why won't you legitimize us? And it's that simple.
That's an important statement that you've just made there, Shaneel. Thank you for that. Look, if you're tuning in, we are catching up with Fijian anti-conversion therapy activist Shaneel Lal. Would love to ask you, of course, there's this major iconic fashion and beauty magazine called Vogue, which most people may know. Now, they've posted an article about you, Shaneel, splashed it all over social media. Your initial reactions to this?
I mean, I woke up and I had no idea they were going to post about me. So my friend sends me this picture, and I thought, oh, someone's made an appreciation post about me. This is quite ordinary for people to do. And I open it and it's Vogue's official Instagram account, and my mind just blows up. In fact, my Instagram's engagement blowed up so much. Instagram thought that I was buying likes and they disabled me immediately. I mean, and then I had to go through this entire process of proving that I'm not a robot. But on reflection, I thought that Vogue put a Pacific model in a Pacific outfit, photographed by a Pacific person in the Pacific, in Vogue. Pacific talent and creativity and resilience was on Vogue, and I think that's something that we can all celebrate.
Yeah, even the fact that you were obviously, draped in a beautiful traditional Fijian tapa. I mean, your culture being showcased like that to the world, what does that mean to you?
I feel as though the Pacific community has fought so hard for us to just exist. And when you come from a community that has been erased, everything that you get, you're extremely grateful for. And you just don't expect Vogue to be one of those people who will appreciate you. But I think the world is changing, and I think we can be hopeful that our community is making a significant amount of progress. And the world is watching, the world is seeing us.
Yeah, I love that. I have to ask you though, Shaneel, again, what protest looks like, and then recently we've obviously got these protests that are happening in
Yeah.
Wellington, and they talk about freedom. I mean, are they going about it the right way? Is there better ways they could protest?
Yeah. I would say what's happening in Wellington is no longer a protest. It is not a peaceful occupation. This is becoming a coup. And I was born into a
Mm,
country that's had 4 coups. These rioters are terrorizing the people of Wellington every day. They're attacking children, they're spitting on school kids, they're
mm,
threatening to kill journalists and MPs. I cannot think of a peaceful end to this. It is so incredibly frustrating to watch what's happening in Wellington right
yeah.
now. Racists and neo-Nazis are trespassing on our parliament's grounds. They have locked an entire city out of functioning and they're treating war memorials as toilets. Just think about this. They are treating war memorials as toilets. The same police that are refusing to do anything to the rioters in Wellington are the same police that were walking around South Auckland with guns, ready to shoot our Maori and Pacific communities. It
Mm,
is it is evidently clear to me that the police don't prevent crime. They
yeah.
invest in keeping these racists in power. I believe that the police commissioner at this point has proven to us that he's incompetent and cannot deal with this situation. I believe that he needs to resign and let someone who can do the job take over. I
Mm,
remember the scenes of police brutality at Ihumatao. The police locked protesters out of getting food and water. The police tackled women, pregnant women, down to the ground. They repeated the same violent acts at
mm,
Putiki. They
mm.
weren't hesitant to attack children when those children were Maori. Looking back, every anti-racist protest has been met with police violence. I'm not calling for violence in this case,
Of
but I'm
course.
asking, why haven't they used violence? Is it because most of these rioters are predominantly white supremacist, white
Mm,
extremist, and racist? I mean, I have been to many protests, and none of them included violence. They've had clear leadership and clear demands.
mm.
No one knows who's leading this protest. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to talk to someone who's threatening to kill me.
Sure.
Leaders like Tamaiti and Honaheke have called for an end to this, and they have protested all their life for the rights of Maori. People should listen to them. I study the law and I understand the importance of protesting. I'm
Absolutely.
queer and I'm brown. I know protesting is vital to our rights. Pride started as a riot at the Stonewalls, but all our rights are balanced against others, and all our rights have justified limitations. These mandates have kept the most vulnerable people, especially Maori and Pacific people, alive. They've prevented a national outbreak. They've given us back many of our freedoms that the world still is desperately fighting for. The mandates are justified, and if these protesters think otherwise, they should take it to the courts, not terrorize the people of
Mm,
Wellington.
mm. Yeah, Shaneel, look, hey, I've loved all the thoughts that you've given this morning. If there was a key message, though, that you'd love to give our listeners this morning, just in regards to the LGBTQI plus community, what would that be this morning?
I would say to our Pacific community in general is that Pacific queer people are family. They are people that you know and love. Simply because now you know them as queer people does not mean that they are different people. Do not treat your child, your sister, your auntie, your uncle as a different person because now you know they are queer. We are all family, and we are all struggling in a way to understand queerness because to us this is somehow a new concept, but
Yeah.
it isn't. It has always existed in our communities and it always will. It is best for us to learn to accept it.
Mm. Shaneel, much love. Thank you very much just for your time this morning. Appreciate, congratulations, and we will take this as a victory, right? And then we look forward to the other things that you're going to be working on behalf of our community. So again, thank you, Shaneel.
Thank you.
No worries.